Welcome to this show, Tubby. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you very much.
So tell us, you are running under two names. Can you explain that for voters who might know you as Tubby, but see another name on the ballot?
Well, everybody in Maria knows, and everybody in the Eurobadella knows me as Tubby. I've been called Tubby since I was a kid. And in the past two elections, I've been allowed to stand as Tubby on the ballot. But this year, somebody in the Electoral Commission has decided I can't stand as Tubby, so I have to stand as N, in brackets, Tubby.
Okay, so when we see N, or your first name is technically Noel.
Yeah, technically Noel. A lot of people will be saying, oh, I didn't know that.
All right, so Noel Harrison, Tubby Harrison, same person.
Same person.
Excellent. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and your ties to the Eurobadella?
We moved here in 1994. We moved down from Cairns with our two little kids, and we bought Harrison Torson Rural, which is the produce store in Maria, and we had that for 21 years, built it up, then we sold it in 2015 and spent 2 years travelling around Australia, and then come back, and I've always had an interest in the local government. I do a lot of community work. I've worked in the show society and on the race course, the racetrack. I do a lot of work with the Chamber of Commerce. We put the Christmas signs up. I've been on a few of the slow food. I was one of the instigators of slow food. So I've had a lot of different ties to the community.
Oh, fantastic.
And I just think we need to get some decent representation in council.
Great. Well, that was going to be my next question, what your motivations were to run for council. Was there, and especially for mayor, because you've run for council before, but mayor's a new position for you to go for.
Yeah, look, I think the current council has not served the community at all. They've been self-serving for themselves. Most people, anybody that really knows me, I'm pretty straightforward. I think the community does need to have a good voice in council, and it needs to be a voice from the community, not led from councillors and council staff.
It's something that we've heard a lot on this show. We have guests on often talking about different developments within the community. Lately, we've heard from concerned citizens in Dalmany, Churros, Browley, concerned about the development and planning, or they feel lack thereof in those places, and with other situations around our shire. And they've felt that they've been dismissed by council. How do you feel that the process with council could be better? And how could council perhaps be more accountable and transparent going forward?
Well, with the Dalmany sale, when the sale went through, they went into commercial in confidence. Now, there doesn't need to be a veil of secrecy over what happens with that land.
And just for our listeners, can you explain commercial in confidence? If someone doesn't know what that means, can you explain?
Commercial in confidence means they close the council down, they go and they have it in private. They have the vote and they have the discussion in private, and it doesn't come out in the public view. Now, it's public land they're selling, and the council and council staff have decided the public don't need to know what they're doing about selling their own land. So it just needs to be more open, and they need to be more transparent.
Right. And what are some steps that you think could be taken to ensure that whoever comes into council next, I guess what would your team like to see happen there? Those are land developments, but there's a whole host of different things that council oversees, and one of our listeners suggested a while back that it's kind of like the tail wagging the dog with council staff choosing what's happening, and council, our elected officials, going along with it, when our listener expressed that it should be the other way around. Do we require some culture change, or what is it that's necessary there?
Yes, I definitely think there's a culture change, but the culture change has to start with the councillors themselves. The councillors have to have respect for each other and have trust in each other. At the moment, the councillors in there it's an aggressive council. They're aggressive to each other. They dismiss each other's point of view. Whether if their view doesn't go that way, they just think it's completely wrong. There needs to be talk. Everybody's got different views. Everybody needs to sit down in a quiet, calm manner and respectfully talk it out. And then you get the outcome. Then it needs to go to the staff, and the staff need to do what the council says. So it needs to start at the top. The councillors need to have work out what they want to do, and then say to the staff, "Here, this is what," and do it in an open fashion so the community knows exactly what you're talking about.
And aside from that culture change, which is a major thing that you're setting forward there, what are some other priorities of your team if you're elected into council?
Well, we must keep the pressure on the state government and keep a level 4 hospital in Marie here. That is, Gary has been a long-term member of the hospital board.
That's Gary Smith. You're running mate and also a mayoral candidate.
And we do need to keep that right at the forefront of the state politicians to make sure they don't downgrade it.
Great, excellent. Yeah. As I'm sure that you're aware, having lived through the bushfires, we've lost many residences in the last 2 years. We've got an extreme housing shortage, and it's very difficult to find rental housing for many locals. And a lot of the people that are feeling this the most are people that have lived here for a long time. What role do you see council playing in the housing crisis here in the Urbadella?
Well, the housing crisis is it's made up of two things, because there's a demand and there's not the supply, and that really forces a crisis. So we need the big infrastructure projects like the hospital coming on, but that's going to create a huge demand on accommodation. So maybe they should look at temporary accommodation, like when people come down to build these infrastructure projects. Perhaps they should have like dongers like they do up north in the minefields, in the gas fields.
And what do you say to people, before we're even getting our construction workers here for the bypass and for the hospital? You're right, that's going to really be a crunch. But already, before those things are happening, people are really struggling to find places to live. And one of the things that council presented when the Dalmany land was sold was that, we're in a housing crisis, we need more houses. But it's been proposed that those houses are going to go straight to investors and to not necessarily going to create more sort of social housing. Do you think that there's something that can be done in the short term to address the situation as it stands now, or is it a longer term problem?
I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction won't solve any long-term housing problem. I think that the fact is everybody is down to the stage where they love the beautiful South Coast, and people want to move here. And the more people that want to move here, the more. In the years that I've been here, I've seen this town. This was a little sleepy town, Maria, and the bay and Narooma. You could walk on a beach without footsteps in summer, and to see it these days now, you cannot turn it back. You can't go backwards.
Yeah, we live in paradise, don't we?
And we do, definitely.
Sometimes it's hard not to begrudge that others want to be here too, isn't it?
Yes, because we live in paradise, everybody else wants to live with us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So we've already gone past. We've already mentioned the bushfires several times, and that brought with it a lot of environmental changes and a lot of destruction. The current council has declined to declare a climate emergency, as you might know. Do you feel that a climate emergency is warranted, and would you declare a climate emergency if elected?
No, I don't. I would not be going for a climate emergency. I think the climate is another knee-jerk reaction. I think we need to be a lot more. There needs to be a lot more discussion. A climate emergency will hurt too many people in the town.
So, what kind of discussion needs to be had around a climate emergency?
Well, the climate is changing. Anybody can see that. We've all can see the climate changing. and man is changing the climate, but our climate probably wouldn't be changing as much if we didn't have so many people here. If we didn't have people coming down here all the time, our climate wouldn't be changing as much. If the world didn't have as big a population, the climate wouldn't be changing as much.
So what steps do you think could be taken? There's that phrase, think globally, act locally.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think locally, what we should be doing is we should be all doing, and we've done ourselves, using solar panels, doing renewable energy, stuff like that, trying to get off the grid, which is a good thing. But I think a lot of these decisions are federal, even state. They're too big for state, a lot of these decisions. And I don't think local councils should not be meddling in federal and state politics. Same as state and federal should not be meddling in local government.
Okay. Another topic. Just have to move quickly here. You've already mentioned the hospital, which is a state project, and there's another topic of discussion on this show. It's been the bypass.
Yes, the bypass.
Also a state project.
Yep.
However, totally massive projects for our community.
They are.
What role do you think that the council can play in influencing the outcome of both the hospital, you've already mentioned to bring that to a level 4, but then also the bypass?
Well, the bypass, I think the route of the bypass is nearly to the stage where it's been decided in State Parliament, and I don't think, no matter what we really do, whether we will have much control or much say in where the actual bypass goes. I think we can negate some of the things. We may be able to move them to move the bypass so that it runs on fence lines or runs outside of property, so that we don't have as many people impacted, which is the main thing. And then the other thing that we need to do is we need the state applicant to get in. We need signage. We need to have a plan for Maria once the bypass opens. Once the bypass opens, we need to get in and have plans on what we can do to mitigate the bypass taking people from our town.
Great. Well, we're really looking forward to talking with you again next week on our program, Tubby. Listeners, that's November 19th. We're going to be airing the second part to this interview where we're going to follow up on some of those questions. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
You have a song selected for our listeners. What did you choose and why?
I've chosen, I heard it on the grapevine, because I think that is fairly relevant to what happens in this council.
All right, there is your mayoral candidate, Tubby Harrison, and we'll play his song now. I heard it on the grapevine by the Sapphires.
By the Sapphires, yes.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the program, Tubby.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So last week we spoke quite a bit about your motivation to run for council and what you think about the current housing shortage and environmental issues within our shire. And can you speak a little bit more about the current situation with council? What do you think that they've done well during their term, and where do you think that there's room for improvement?
I think that the room for improvement is a lot more cooperation and a lot more information coming back to the community. I think that is that they haven't been very successful in getting the message that they want to get out from within council. They just seem to go along and do whatever they want. What they've done well, you've really put me on the spot, haven't you?
Well, you can be honest. If there are more things you want to share about improvement, that's okay too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. When you think about it, there's probably, they've been okay with a lot of things, but there's nothing I think they can really this council can hang their head on to say anything that they've done well. I think the development in the bay is going to be an issue for us down the track.
The development in the bay.
The pavilions. I think they could be a noose around our necks. So nobody really knows and they've kept it fairly secret.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something that we've heard on this program before about the lack of transparency that voters have felt within the council, and that's definitely come up as something that people want to see change, at least with the feedback on this show that we've heard. And you've run previously in elections. Last time you were
2
on
years,
Liz Innes's ticket,
yes.
is that right? And before that, were you
ERA.
ERA. Right, excellent. And you're currently running as an independent group again. There's been some discussion in local media, you may have seen, about different councillors having ties to political parties.
Yep.
Do you have any ties to disclose, and have you ever been a member of a political party?
No, I've never been a member of a political party. I've never been a member of any major political party. I think the ERA was a political party at one stage, so as a local, if you're going to say a political party, I would have to put my hand up for that. Back in the 80s, when I was working over in West Australia, I was a union delegate, so I was probably part of a political party then, those days too. So, I haven't got any connection with any major political parties, and I don't think major political parties have any justification to be in local government. The way that they act in federal and state government, if they were your kids, you take them out the corner and you give their bottoms a little smack.
Fair enough.
So unfortunately, it becomes a antagonistic party. If you get the major parties in town, as soon as one says something, the other one disagrees to it.
I see.
And we don't need that at local government. We need to get a more cooperative council, not an aggressive council, which is the one we've had now.
Well, thanks for that explanation on your views on that. That's great. So, as you're now running for mayor, can you explain what do you feel is the role of mayor, and how does that differ from being a councillor?
Well, I think the role of the mayor is as the head of the council is the voice of the council. And the council should be the voice of the people. So really the mayor is the main voice of the people to get that out. Now, to get that message out, they have to have input from the council, input from the community, sorry. And that is where this council has stopped. They should have live streaming should be back in. We should have questions. They should be able to put questions on notice. This council's just shut everything down.
Live streaming of meetings. That's something that's a very interesting idea, especially if they were recorded and being able to be visited later. Because some people have mentioned, sometimes council meetings are impossible to get to, given a busy work and life schedule we all have. That's a really interesting point of feedback. In your time here in the Eurobodalla, I'm sure you've noticed it's changed dramatically.
Yes,
the demographics of our population are changing. Do you think that there's enough diversity reflected on council, and how do you think that council might foster more inclusion and more diversity?
Well, so I think we would get a lot better diversity, and I go back to without having political parties. Because political parties stifle diversity. We are better off to have smaller groups being able to be represented on council. And then we need the councillors that are there to be open to all these smaller diversified groups that may not follow your exact philosophy, but you need to be open to listen to them and to accept their point of view and respect it.
Yeah, those are sort of basic principles of how to get along with people, isn't it?
It is,
you think that they should be basic, but that's true. So, can you tell me more about the team that you're running with? How did you find each other, and why do you work well together?
Well, I've like I say, I've been a long-term resident here since '94, and I know a lot of people in the town. I've picked the people that I run with because we are a diverse part of the community. We all work and have worked and play in different fields that we don't. Gary is from Churros, and he's been Teen Safe out at the Speedway. He runs that. He's been on the hospital board and he's been on quite a few different things. Jacqueline was a businesswoman in town here, running the office supplies with her late husband. And she's tied up with the Speedway and does a lot of community work, works for helpers down at Juros. And John is a retired police officer, very high esteem.
Excellent. And what do you feel that your team can bring to the table that might be lacking in the other candidates or in council as it stands now?
I think our team brings a lot of maturity and respect and honesty.
Excellent. And is there anything else that you would want voters to know about your team and about the messages that you have in your campaign that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I think that there needs to be. People can't have set fast rules of I want to do this, I want to do that, because I think we need to be. None of us that are prospective councillors or mayors really know exactly what we're getting ourselves in for, because none of us have got the experience. When we get in there will have to be certain things that probably will change a little bit, but what I think the main thing we need to do is we need to keep that communication with the public open. If it changes, we say it's changed because of this. And such in saying that, that's why I don't think there's anybody can sit there and say I want to do this, I want to do that, and list them out and give you 20 things, and then get in and say, well, I can't do it now.
Right.
And I'd rather be honest with people than.
Yeah, we've been talking about honesty and transparency quite a lot. Something that you touched on last week in our last interview was the business community.
Yep.
And, we've mentioned, we all know the difficulties our community has faced. Bushfires, floods, COVID restrictions have been enormous. In other communities that have gotten a highway bypass, it's shown that it can divert the flow of business by up to 4 or 5 years. And we're looking at that potential in our town after already having 2 years of difficulty. What's your team's plan to help? How can we support the businesses in our community?
Well, I think Maria does do things very well. In our local business community gets together, when we put on like the markets are very well run and do a great job in bringing everybody into town. We do have a very, very successful running industrial area that is really good and all those sort of things will still function with a bypass. We have the Shire, which is the biggest employer in the town. A lot of them still say yes. So I think we've got the nucleus of the businesses will be all right, but when the bypass comes in, we need to get from state government, we need to get allocations to promote the town. We need to do things like somebody come up with the idea we need to put in a adventure playground for kids so people can pull off the road and let their kids out if they've been sitting in the car for 4 hours and they want to run around and go berserk.
Oh my goodness, I know what that's like.
Well, my kids are too old now.
You'll have grandkids.
Yeah, grandkids, yeah.
So that's interesting. And would you say, you've been a small business owner in our community, and if I know you're retired, but if you had just gone through the period that we've gone through, and I'm sure that in your 21 years of owning a business here in Maria, that you probably had many hard phases.
Yeah, I did.
What do you think that council could do immediately for our small business community? Promoting the town and taking more longer term projects. I think I agree with you. There's a lot that can be done there. Is there anything as a small business owner that you would have liked to have seen if you had just gone through the period we've gone through?
We do need to cut down the red tape. The red tape that comes out of council, of all the little things we've got to do and we can't do and we can do. It's even the same as I have to change my name It's all these little things that just add up to be huge, big hindrances to any small business that's trying to get ahead.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think we mentioned this in the last interview. Tubby has had to put his first initial N for Noel on the ballot due to a request.
N-Tubby.
N-Tubby. So if you see N-Tubby, that you're thinking of Tubby Harrison, who we're speaking with now. So it's been wonderful to speak with you, Tubby. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, yes.
Again, we're going to end with a song. What have you chosen for us this week?
Well, this week we are really on it. It's Under Pressure by Queen.
Oh. Well, you know what? I don't think it really even needs an introduction, but tell us anyway. Well, tell us why Under Pressure.
Well, I think everybody all the candidates now are all under pressure. Everybody's under pressure, so let's keep rolling along.
Yeah, definitely. So December 4th, cast your ballot.
Yes, December 4th, vote.